Welcome to Propeller Breeze, the show for student pilots, sim fans, and everyone chasing that first solo and beyond. All information in this podcast is for entertainment and general knowledge only. Always verify with certified flight instructors or regulatory authorities before attempting anything mentioned here.
I was actually thinking earlier today about the very first time I ever sat in the pilot's seat of a small plane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was this tiny little Cessna, and I just remember gripping the yoke and thinking, okay, this is basically just a steering wheel that moves in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
Like, you turn it left, you pull it back, you go up. It feels so incredibly intuitive because, well, we've all spent thousands of hours driving cars.
Yeah, and that is, honestly, that is the single most dangerous assumption a student pilot can make.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it works right up until the exact moment it kills you.
Well, that is a suitably terrifying way to kick off a deep dive, but you're completely right, and that is exactly why we are here today. We are diving into a text called The Mechanics of Aerial Energy Management. And honestly, if you are out there working on your private pilot license right now, or even if you're just, an armchair aviator trying to understand flight simulation, this is the missing link.
It really is the missing link. Because most flight training, especially early on, it just starts with maneuvers.
Right, like, here's how you do a steep turn.
Exactly. Here's a stall, or here's how you do a holding pattern. But this text takes a huge step back and looks at the actual physics that make any of those maneuvers possible.
Yeah.
It fundamentally argues that a pilot isn't really a driver at all. A pilot is an energy manager.
I just love that distinction. We aren't steering, we are accounting. We're balancing a budget.
Yes.
So let's set the stage for everyone. The source material introduces this overarching concept of total mechanical energy. It essentially posits that an airplane in flight is basically a flying battery.
That's a great way to put it.
It holds energy, but it holds it in 2 very specific forms.
Right. So think of these as your 2 bank accounts. The first one is altitude.
Okay.
In physics terms, this is your potential energy.
Yeah.
The higher up you are in the sky, the more energy you have banked in the system.
So it's like a traditional savings account.
Yeah. Exactly like a savings account. It's secure, it's sitting there for a rainy day, but it's not immediately doing anything for you in terms of moving around.
Got it. And the second account?
That would be airspeed. Kinetic energy, this is just how fast you are moving through the air mass.
So if altitude is the savings account, airspeed is
The cash in your wallet.
the cash in your wallet, right?
It's entirely liquid. You can spend it right now to make things happen, like generating lift or doing a maneuver. But because it's cash, it's also really easy to burn through quickly.
So total mechanical energy is simply the sum of those 2 things, height plus speed.
Yep.
That seems simple enough on the surface. But the problem, and really the whole reason we're doing this deep dive into this text, is that these 2 accounts are constantly interacting with each other.
Constantly.
And if you don't fully understand the exchange rate between them, you end up broke.
And in aviation, going broke means you stop flying.
Exactly. The ground comes up to meet you. So let's break down the actual economy of the airplane here. The text introduces a fundamental equation, which is basically energy in versus energy out.
Right.
How do we actually get energy into this system in the first place?
Well, there's really only one way to add total mechanical energy to an airplane, and that is your engine. We call this thrust, denoted as the letter P in the text.
Okay.
Thrust is your paycheck. It is the steady income stream into your bank account.
And the expenses, the energy out.
That's drag, denoted as D, because every single time you move an object through a fluid and air acts like a fluid at those speeds, you pay a penalty.
Friction, air resistance, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Skin friction, the physical shape of the plane pushing air out of the way, and even the induced drag from the wings just do the job producing lift, that is all energy that is constantly leaking out of your system.
So the core formula the source hands us is just T minus D, thrust minus drag.
It's the net change equation. If your thrust is greater than your drag, your total energy account is growing. You're saving money.
You're operating at a profit.
Yes. If drag is greater than thrust, your overall account is shrinking. You're losing energy. And if they happen to be exactly equal, you are in equilibrium.
Okay, I want to walk through the specific scenarios the text outlines because I think this is where the pure theory actually hits the cockpit for you as a pilot.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the first situation, which the text calls the surplus. This is the happy place. T minus D is greater than 0.
Right.
We're at full throttle. Maybe we just rotated off the runway after takeoff.
So you have this massive surplus of energy, this profit pouring in from the engine. Now, as the pilot, you are essentially the portfolio manager. You have to make a choice.
A choice of where to put it.
Exactly. You ask yourself, where do I store this profit? Because you can't just hoard energy in the abstract. It physically has to manifest in the real world as either altitude or airspeed.
So the text calls this first choice Scenario A, which refers to Figure 4.1a in the source. And in this scenario, the pilot decides to just dump all that profit into the altitude account.
This is your standard, by-the-book, constant airspeed climb.
Okay.
You pitch the nose up just enough to keep the airspeed needle perfectly steady. You aren't letting the plane speed up at all, so logically, where does all that excess thrust have to go?
It goes 100% into lifting the aircraft against gravity.
Exactly.
Visually, reading the text, I pictured this like riding a really fast elevator. The speedometer on your dash is just frozen in place, but your altimeter is winding up like a clock.
That's a great visual. You are banking all your profit directly into the savings account.
But then you look at Scenario B. Same plane, same full throttle, same huge energy surplus from the engine. But the pilot makes a totally different choice here.
Right. In Scenario B, they push the nose forward and hold their altitude completely constant. They flat out refuse to climb.
So the savings account is closed for deposits.
Correct. So that massive surplus energy has literally nowhere else to go but into the cash account. The plane accelerates.
It's just shooting forward like a drag racer.
Yes, this is a level acceleration run. You are turning aviation fuel directly into raw speed.
Now, here is where I think student pilots, and I am absolutely including myself back in the day here, get really confused.
Oh, sure.
Because we want it all. We jam the throttle all the way forward, and we want to climb like a SpaceX rocket and speed up like an F-16 fighter jet at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's the classic have your cake and eat it too problem in aviation.
Yeah.
But the text makes a crucial point here.
Which is?
You are hard limited by the actual size of your surplus. If your engine gives you, let's just say, 100 units of extra energy, you could split it up. You can put 50 units into your climb and 50 units into your speed.
Right.
But you cannot put 100 into the climb and 100 into speed. The math simply does not allow it.
And that perfectly explains the danger of the takeoff rotation, doesn't it? Like, when you lift the nose off the runway, you are actively transitioning from Scenario B, which is your acceleration run down the pavement, into Scenario A, which is your climb.
Exactly.
And if you yank back on that yoke too hard,
you are attempting to dump 100% of your energy into climbing. But if you haven't built up enough speed yet, if your cash account is too low and you stop accelerating because you're climbing too steeply,
you find yourself up in the air with no airspeed margin at all. You stall.
You tried to heavily invest in your savings account before you actually had enough cash on hand to pay the monthly bills.
That is a perfect analogy. You just go bankrupt right there over the runway.
Yeah, and unfortunately that brings us to the much darker side of this whole equation, the deficit.
Right, the energy crisis. This is where drag is now greater than thrust. T minus D is fundamentally negative.
Maybe you've pulled the throttle way back to idle to start a descent. Or maybe you've just deployed the flaps and dropped the landing gear, which creates this massive amount of drag on the airframe.
Either way, your daily expenses are now much higher than your income. You are actively bleeding total mechanical energy.
And just like a real bank account, if you are spending more than you earn, you have to dip into your assets to cover the difference. You have to make a withdrawal.
The drag bill is due, and the plane can't move forward otherwise.
Precisely. You must withdraw from either altitude or airspeed to pay that drag bill.
Let's look at Scenario C in the text. This is what you might call the responsible withdrawal.
But this is just a standard normal descent.
Like coming down from cruise altitude.
Yeah. The pilot maintains their airspeed, so they're keeping the cash account nice and steady, and they pay the drag bill entirely with altitude. You literally just slide down the hill. It's totally controlled. You are safely liquidating your savings to keep the whole operation running.
But then we have Scenario D, Figure 4.1d. And I'll be honest, reading the text, this is the one that actually scares me.
It should.
Because this is the pilot who absolutely refuses to descend.
Right. Imagine you are on a landing approach. You're looking out the window and you suddenly feel like you're getting way too low, way too early.
Your monkey brain just screams, "Don't go down! The ground is bad!"
Exactly. Your instinct takes over. So you pull straight back on the yoke to hold your altitude. You are desperately trying to protect your savings account from draining.
But the drag bill is still due. The physics of the airplane doesn't care at all that you're nervous about hitting the trees.
It doesn't care one bit. So if you flat out refuse to pay that bill with altitude, the airplane is physically forced to pay it with airspeed.
You slow down.
You slow down significantly.
And this is so insidious, right? Because as you slow down, the airflow over the wings decreases, the controls start to get really mushy and unresponsive.
And what do you do to keep holding that altitude as you get slower?
You have to pull back even more.
Which points the nose higher, which exposes more of the wing to the wind, which creates even more drag.
It's a literal death spiral. You are completely liquidating your cash reserves, your speed, just to pay for your altitude.
And eventually the cash just runs out.
The wing stalls.
The wing stalls. And because you spent absolutely all your available energy holding on to that altitude, you now have no speed left to recover the stall, and very often not enough altitude left to trade back for speed before you hit the dirt.
That is what they call the region of reversed command, isn't it? Where pulling back on the stick to go up actually makes you sink faster in the long run because you've entirely destroyed your energy state.
Yes. In that state, the only way to survive is to do the exact thing your brain hates the most.
Push the nose down.
Push the nose down.
Yeah.
You have to accept the altitude loss. You have to willingly reopen the savings account to get some fluid cash flow back into the system.
Man, that requires so much mental discipline. It's completely counterintuitive to human survival instincts.
Which is exactly why understanding the underlying physics is so much better than just memorizing a rote maneuver.
Right.
Because if you can visualize that bank account rapidly draining, you know you have to take action to stop the bleeding, even if it feels scary.
Okay, let's take a collective breath here and move to the middle ground.
Sure.
The equilibrium state. Scenario E in the text.
Equilibrium.
Yeah.
This is where T minus D exactly equals 0.
Income equals expenses.
Right.
So this is basically just cruise flight. The budget is perfectly balanced.
You aren't gaining any total energy, and you aren't losing any. The result is just a constant altitude and a constant airspeed.
Smooth sailing.
But I do want to clarify something important here, because the text makes a point of it. Equilibrium doesn't mean static.
What do you mean?
Well, you can be in equilibrium at 90 knots, or you can be in equilibrium at 140 knots. It just means that at that specific moment in time, your thrust perfectly matches your drag.
Ah, I see. It's just a stable state for whatever configuration you're currently in. But, you know, pilots rarely just sit there in equilibrium for fun. We like to move around, change altitudes, do maneuvers. And this leads to the concept in the source material that I honestly find the most fascinating.
Let me guess. The trade.
The trade, the energy exchange.
Yeah, that's a brilliant section.
It's this idea that we can literally swap energy back and forth between our two buckets, altitude and airspeed, without actually ever touching the throttle.
This is figure 41F in the text. It describes how you can instantly move funds between your accounts. So let's imagine you are flying straight and level at, say, 120 knots.
Okay, so I have a really good amount of kinetic energy, lots of cash.
Right. Now suddenly, you just pull back hard on the stick.
Nose goes up, I start to climb.
You climb rapidly. But remember, you haven't added any throttle. You haven't increased your income. So where is the energy for that sudden climb actually coming from?
I am aggressively converting my 120 knots of forward speed into vertical altitude.
Exactly. You are literally buying height with your speed.
That's what they call a zoom climb. And the reverse obviously works too, right? Like if I'm high up and I push the nose over and dive.
You are cashing out your altitude to buy speed. You drop out of the sky, but you accelerate rapidly.
The text mentions this thing called the rule of opposites here.
It is such a great rule of thumb, especially for student pilots. The rule is basically this. During any energy trade, assuming you haven't touched the throttle, altitude and airspeed will always move in opposite directions.
Meaning if one goes up, the other has to go down.
Always. If the altimeter is winding up, your airspeed indicator is definitely winding down. If the altimeter is winding down, the airspeed is winding up.
It seems so incredibly obvious when you just say it out loud in a studio, but when you are actually in the cockpit, it is so easy to forget.
Oh, it really is.
You pull back to avoid a bird or a cloud, and you completely forget that you are actively stealing from your speed to do it.
And here is the truly fascinating part from a pure physics perspective. Throughout that entire maneuver, the zoom climb, the dive, the whole roller coaster ride, if we just ignore the slight changes in drag efficiency for a second, the total mechanical energy remains effectively the exact same.
Wait, really? Even though I'm going from like super fast and low to really slow and high?
Yes. The total sum of the energy hasn't changed at all. It is just packaged completely differently. Think of a grandfather clock pendulum.
Okay, a pendulum.
At the very bottom of its swing, it is moving its absolute fastest. That's maximum kinetic energy. Cash.
Right.
But at the very top of its swing, it actually stops moving for a split second before falling back down. That is maximum potential energy, altitude.
But the total energy in the pendulum itself is constant the whole time.
Exactly. The airplane is just doing that exact same dance in the sky.
So an airplane flying at, say, 1,000 feet, 150 knots, might theoretically have the exact same total mechanical energy as that same airplane at 2,500 feet flying at 80 knots.
Spot on. It is the exact same amount of money, just held in completely different currencies.
Wow.
And an expert pilot knows exactly how to exchange those currencies fluidly. If you need to quickly hop over a tree line, you trade your speed for height. If you feel the plane stalling, you instantly trade your height for speed. You're constantly bartering with gravity.
You know, this brings up a huge question for the students listening right now.
Sure.
In flight school, we are constantly taught these little mantras, and the biggest one is pitch for airspeed, power for altitude.
Yeah.
Is this text basically saying that mantra is wrong?
Well, not wrong exactly, but it's
incomplete.
How so?
Pitch for airspeed, power for altitude is a heuristic. It's a mental shortcut designed to keep you safe during stable flight, like on an instrument approach.
Right.
But energy management, what we're talking about today, that is the actual truth of the physics.
So when does the shortcut break down?
Heuristics always break down in dynamic situations.
Like what?
Well, let's say you are in a steep turn, banking the plane over at 45 degrees. Because of the g-force required to turn the plane, your drag suddenly goes way, way up. You are suddenly hemorrhaging total energy. Your drag bill just spiked. Now, if you just rigidly follow the rule and pitch for airspeed, you might pull back to maintain your speed, but you'll start descending rapidly.
Because I'm withdrawing from my altitude account to pay that massive new drag-a-mill from the turn.
Exactly.
So an energy-aware pilot, someone who really understands this text, they anticipate that bill before it even arrives.
Yes. They know instinctively that the steep turn creates drag. They know that drag is an energy expense. So before they even roll the wings into the turn, they reach out and add thrust.
They increase the income.
Or increase the income to cover the coming expense. They don't wait to react to the loss, they preemptively prevent it.
That really is the defining difference between actually flying the airplane and just blindly chasing the needles on the dashboard.
It changes your entire mindset. It moves you from a state of constant correction to a state of actual management. You completely stop being surprised when the plane randomly slows down or sinks because you know exactly where the energy went. You authorize the transaction.
I really want to wrap up today with a thought that really stuck with me from the source material. It kind of recontextualizes the most critical and usually the most stressful phase of any flight.
The landing.
The landing.
The ultimate energy management challenge.
We usually think of landing a plane as just, well, slowing down so we can stop on the ground. But based on this entire energy model we've just discussed, that's not really accurate, is it?
Not at all. Think about it. A plane on final approach has a very significant amount of altitude, which is potential energy, and it still has a significant amount of airspeed, your kinetic energy.
Right, you're high up and you're moving fast.
Exactly. To land safely, you need both of those accounts to reach near zero at the exact same precise moment, right as the rubber wheels touch the pavement.
So a landing isn't just stopping the plane. It's a highly calculated energy dump.
I like to call it controlled bankruptcy.
Controlled bankruptcy. That is brilliant.
You are intentionally using high drag devices. You drop the wing flaps, you lower the gear, maybe you put the plane into a forward slip, and then finally you do the landing flare.
All just to drain your accounts as fast as possible.
You are trying to time it so perfectly that your bank balance hits absolute zero right when you reach your destination.
And if you have too much energy left over, like if you miscalculate,
You float. You just glide halfway down the runway, refusing to touch down because you still have too much cash to burn off, or you bounce hard off the pavement because you still have savings, vertical energy that you didn't fully dissipate in the flare.
and on the flip side, if you go bankrupt too early,
You crash short of the runway. You simply ran out of energy while you were still in the air.
man, it really puts that little squeak squeak sound of the tires touching down in a completely new perspective.
It does.
That sound is literally just the sound of the accounting books balancing perfectly.
A clean zero balance at the finish line. That is the hallmark of a perfect flight.
I really love that concept. Controlled bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It makes a landing flare feel significantly less like magic or luck and much more like just applied math.
And really, that's what this entire deep dive is all about. It's about taking the mystery out of the machine. The airplane doesn't have a mind of its own. It is just an incredibly strict energy accountant. It never cheats, and it never, ever lies.
Well, to all the student pilots out there grinding through their PPLs, and hey, even the rusty pros getting back into the left seat, hopefully, this text gives you a completely new way to visualize what is actually happening the next time you push that throttle forward.
Absolutely.
Remember, you aren't just steering a car in the sky, you are managing the budget.
Fly safe, everyone. And seriously, watch your balance.
It will catch you on the next deep dive.
That's it for this episode. Keep your wings level, your brain sharp, and catch you next time in the pattern. Thanks for riding with Propeller Breeze.